first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for getting upset with one of my co-workers who used my sonogram to fool her ex-boyfriend into thinking she was pregnant? Hello everyone, I'm 27 female. My husband and I found out 2 months ago we are expecting our first child. Last week, we officially announced it via text and phone calls to our friends and family. The next day at work, I found out that one of my co-workers had taken the photo of the sonogram I had sent them in the group text. Someone had asked to see it, and posted it on her social media to fool her ex-boyfriend, who she broke up with a few weeks ago, into thinking she was pregnant. I never wanted my sonogram on the internet. I don't have a Facebook, or an Instagram, or anything like that. And I feel extremely uncomfortable that it's out there without me being able to control the audience if who is looking at it. Also, this seems like an extremely cruel trick to play on someone, and she used my sonogram as a prop for this mean joke. When I expressed that I was upset to my co-worker, she said I was being dramatic, and I'm just looking for something to be upset over. She said she covered up all identifying information, and that it was only up for a few hours, and she told her ex-boyfriend the truth after making him sweat for a bit. Are pregnancy hormones making me more upset about this than I should be? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Absolutely not the a-hole. What in the world was she thinking? This is a huge invasion of your privacy. I mean, I'm not even touching the can of worms of the prank she played on her boyfriend, because holy hell. I'm just focusing on your involvement here. To be completely honest, I'd go to HR about this. But you do you. It's absolutely unacceptable behavior. And frankly, I think it's time to not be on a group chat with her. This is not someone you need having access to your life outside professional boundaries. She took an extremely beautiful, wonderful moment of your life and twisted it for her own sick pleasure. Yes, a visit to HR is totally warranted, and I would definitely keep things strictly professional with her from now on. I'm seeing multiple reasons to never interact with her if you don't have to. Most definitely involve HR. Also in the future, as if you don't already know, keep your cards close to your chest. Not the a-hole. In addition to being a pretty sick joke, that's completely out of line to post someone else's sonogram. I feel bad for her boyfriend. What kind of relationship is built on the foundation of making your significant other sweats for a bit? Jesus Christ. Well, he's probably an ex for a reason. Not the a-hole. You did not post your child's picture on the internet. It was a horrible joke to play. All you have is her word she took it down. It might still be up. Even if she did take it down, it's possible someone else screenshot it along with her message to show someone else how terrible the coworker treated the ex. Personally, I would get someone to check her webpage to make sure the post was taken down. They contact the ex and explain what happened and that you would like the picture deleted if any of his friends screenshot the picture. Honestly, if she has done something like this in the past, stalking him, he might be trying to get evidence to get a restraining order against her. And there would be your baby's first picture and a police report. Also, never share any pictures of your child again with her. Show them to her, but not via the net. On another note, congrats! May your baby always sleep through the night and rarely cry. Thank you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting a prenup? I was married for 9 years. We have 2 children, 7 male and 6 female. 3 years ago, after a sudden illness, she passed away. It was the most devastating thing to ever happen to me. The only reason I made it through is because of my kids and needing to be strong for them. I used my wife's life insurance to pay off the mortgage. It's in a beautiful area, excellent schools, and very low taxes. If anything happens to me, I have things set up so that my wife's sister will be our children's guardian and they can remain in the house. I carry enough life insurance that they won't ever lose the home. Shortly after my wife passed, an old girlfriend reached out to offer condolences. She has 3 kids. One is in her 20s, one is a teenager, and one is 3. She was incredibly supportive, cooked meals, helped out with the kids, and was amazing to my family. About a year ago, we both admitted we still had those feelings and started dating again. It's been strange to be with someone again. I don't want to say it's easier, but at the same time, I feel like it would have been much harder to try to meet someone. I don't know if I ever would have gone looking. I still love my wife, and my kids are number 1 in my heart. A few weeks ago, she brought up marriage. I said I wasn't there yet, and she understood. When I thought about it, I sat down with her and explained that everything is set up to provide for my children in the event something happens to me. I told her that I wasn't there yet, but that if we were to get married, I would want a prenup. I told her what I have in place, informed her that the house would go to my children, my life insurance would remain in their names, and any assets I already owned would be exempt in the event of divorce. As she would need to sell her home, I told her that we would write it into the agreement that the money from the sale of her home was hers. She was very hurt and told me that if anything happened to me, she wanted to be the one to raise my children and give them a good life. She told me that she wanted us to have the family that we never got to have because we broke up. I replied that if we got married, I was willing to revisit guardianship, but I can't see budging on assets, at least until they got through college, because I could never forgive myself if their future was in jeopardy. We broke up because she cheated, and while she's told me it was the biggest mistake of her life and showed me she's changed, it's still in the back of my mind. I offered to take out additional life insurance, naming her the beneficiary. She says it's not about forging a partnership, and she doesn't want to feel like a removable guest in the marriage. She's opposed to any prenuptial agreement. Some friends have told me I'm only protecting my children. Others have pointed out that she's been there for me for almost 3 years in whatever way I've needed, and I'm hurting her by putting conditions and everything. Edit, clarifying that she cheated over 10 years ago when we were originally together. I met my wife right after, and we've remained friendly after I forgave her. Not a-hole. To be honest, the timing of her reaching out and being so very helpful seems a bit suspicious. Like she maybe saw an opportunity for a nice house for her kids. The fact that she cheated, after the prenup discussion I think, shows her true colors. Not a-hole. I'm getting the she who controls the children controls the money vibe from her. You have offered reasonable options to protect her financially in the event of your passing, but she seems to want it all. That right there is a big red flag for me. You nailed it. In her mind, it's maybe their children, so their money's mine now. Absolutely, unequivocally not a-hole. You have a duty to your children to protect them and their assets. Second marriages complicate things, so the only right thing to do is a prenup. It's not even about divorce, but also in the case of your death. Sorry, I don't mean to be morbid. Most single parents would agree with this. It's odd to me that she was hurt. If she doesn't want a prenup, you need to ask yourself why. She may have been there for the past 3, but she's also cheated, which proves she cannot be fully trusted. No apology needed. Since my wife got sick, I have been living my life with the express purpose of ensuring my family's future after I'm gone. A lot of people tell me it's morbid, but it's what has motivated me to work, to get out of bed, to force myself to get through each day. I need to know that they'll be okay if I'm not here anymore. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my family that my brother earns less than his wife? My brother, male 32, who we'll call Luke, is a good guy, but he's very lazy. He's always wanted money but never wanted to work for it. His wife, female 30, who we'll call Jane, is awesome. Me and my wife are so happy he's with her because she's just very kind and funny and has become a good friend to us as well as family member, particularly with my wife. She has a high-paying job. She lives in a nice house, buys nice things, have a nice car, etc. My brother has a pretty normal job. He's not very ambitious, and now that he's with her, he's content with that, which is totally fine, by the way. Jane has told my wife a couple times that she doesn't mind paying for everything, but that doesn't like to talk about it in public and get defensive if she mentions anything that she bought when friends or family are present. I've noticed this too. Well, my parents got vaccinated, so we all went there for dinner. It was a great time. At one point, my dad is talking about finances and saving, etc. And my brother mentions the house he bought and the car he bought. Me and my wife are rolling our eyes while Jane looks a little disgruntled. And then at one point he says, yes, we have a simple relationship with money. I make it, she spends it. Like a joke, but joking about the wrong thing if that makes sense, because he's alluding to the fact that this is true. So I say, look, that's a bit unfair. Jane is the breadwinner in your household, and she bought the house and the car, didn't she? He laughs and says, no. So I don't bother after that. He called me later and blasted me saying it was none of my business. And so what if she bought those things? I said he should be a little more appreciative and respectful. We haven't spoken since, and my mom and dad are annoyed that I said it because it made dinner awkward. Edit. Jane appreciated it. Now for the top comments. He brought this on himself when he kept going on about how only he paid for stuff. Normal couples say we bought a house. You just ask for some decency for his wife. Not an a-hole. Agreed. He was a bit of an a-hole then, but that joke makes it far worse. Hope he did the right thing. Not an a-hole. It's one thing to keep quiet about it if it's not something you want to share. It's a completely different thing when you're enjoying the comforts provided to you and then lying about the person providing the comfort by openly saying you're the one doing it all. That's utter BS. Totally not an a-hole. I'm sure Jane appreciated that very much. Not an a-hole, but I really don't understand why Jane is with this a-hole. It's hard now to try and defend him, but he isn't a bad dude. They're together because he's funny, very charismatic, and actually means well. I think, like all of us, he's just deeply flawed, and this is one of the ugly sides of it. He respects his wife and loves her very much, as does she with him. But he's just a bit of a prickhead sometimes and needs to be told it. There will be no real long-last bad blood. I think it just needed someone to remind him how fortunate he is, and that he should be a little more appreciative and respectful of the fact in life that his wife is able to give him. Not at a-hole. You should let him know that no one ever thinks less of him because of the money he makes. Let him know you only think less of him when he puts his wife down and suggests in front of all of you that she doesn't contribute to the household. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to look after my daughter and telling my husband it was his problem to find babysitting? I, 35 female, changed industries at the beginning of this year and moved from a job where I worked 9 days a fortnight to working 5 days every week. Prior to this, my husband, 36 male, and I had been alternating spending a day during the week looking after our 1-year-old daughter. I told him that I wouldn't be able to do this anymore as I was now working full-time, and we should consider either a nanny or an extra day of childcare. But he said that his mother wouldn't like it, and he'd figure something out. Well, it turns out that the thing he figured out was that I'd be able to start work from home for a few days a week after I'd been at the new job for a few months. So a couple of weeks ago, he went in for work on the day we didn't have childcare and made me look after the baby. After this, I said this couldn't be relied on for this, because work from home means work from home. It doesn't mean work from home while dealing with a 1-year-old. The advantage of work from home was the lack of commute. Anyway, this Friday after work, he tells me that he needs me to look after the baby on Monday while he goes and trains a new employee. I said it doesn't work for me as I have work, and I have a client meeting that morning, so I don't have that much flexibility. He told me it was not feasible for him to take every Monday off, and I had to do it sometimes. And I was like, well, I can't. He then asked me what would make me happy. And I said what would make me happy was going back in time and listening to me when I said we should arrange an extra day of childcare, and it was his decision not to do that. So he should figure out what to do with the baby and stop making it my problem. My husband was furious with me, because he thinks I'm not trying to make any compromises, and putting my career before this. The way I see it, he's not taking my career seriously, and is jeopardizing my reputation for reliability while I'm still in my probation phase in a new job and new industry. My husband works for his parents, and has for most of his life, so I don't think he realizes what the norms are for normal employment. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He created this issue by unilaterally deciding that Monday childcare was out of the question because his mother wouldn't like it. He needs to figure this out on his own. To the extent he asks for help finding childcare for Monday, I'd help, but only after he acknowledged this was a situation of his own making. You're justified in feeling he doesn't respect your career. His behavior here suggests exactly that. He also seems very comfortable making a mess and expecting you to clean it up without acknowledging he made it in the first place. This is troubling. Hold the line and insist this gets sorted out properly to avoid his bad behavior in the future. Not at a-hole. And why does his mother have veto power over your childcare decisions in his mind? But he said that his mother wouldn't like it. Info. Why does his mother's feelings factor into how your kid is taken care of? He is a total mama's boy. I knew this when I married him, and I get along with his mother quite well. Maybe she can come over and help. Anyway, you're not the a-hole, and you're right in saying he is not taking your career seriously. However, instead of making it his problem, have another conversation where you discuss a plan which works for the both of you. Additional daycare or nanny, or ask him to ask mommy for help. Both of you decide which option is best, and don't let him wiggle out of this conversation. Not the a-hole. Now that he realizes I'm not going to be flexible, we are getting another day of childcare. We had this discussion before I started my new job, but he didn't want her to go an extra day, and figured that I could just look after her while working. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to help pay for my father's cancer treatment even though I'm wealthy? Growing up, I always knew I wasn't my parents' favorite kid. I wasn't treated bad, but my brothers were always treated better than me. My birthday parties were only a homemade cake, 2 guests max, and no presents. Well, my brothers had store-bought cakes, as many friends as they wanted to invite, and presents for them. This is only one example, but people with parents like mine will understand. Also, my brothers were encouraged to attend college and received financial help from my parents for it. When I was 6 months away from my 18th birthday, my father told me I better start looking for jobs because he had complied with his legal obligations towards me and wanted me out of the house the day after my birthday, and I could only take 1 change of clothes as all of my belongings had been bought with his money. 6 months later, when I was saying my goodbyes, I was telling my brothers I would be seeing them on Christmas and other holidays. When father heard this, he laughed and told me I wouldn't be allowed at family events until I paid him back for all the expenses he had made raising me. I was dumbfounded by his comment and asked how much I had to pay. He said $5,000, which was a lot of money back then, especially for an unemployed 18-year-old with a high school degree and a change of clothes in his backpack. I think he wasn't expecting me to pay it back. I was extremely lucky. A friend's parents let me stay with them, and I found a job doing landscaping. The owner of the landscaping company took me under his wing and treated me like a son. He had no kids of his own. Sadly, he passed away 11 years after we met. He left me his landscaping business, which is very profitable and allows me to make 6 figures without much effort. So now, I live a very comfy life managing the business. I'm single without kids and live a middle-class lifestyle, so I have a hefty savings account. I think I could retire at 45. Needless to say, I've never talked to my father since that day. I kept seeing my brothers, although they had to keep it a secret from father. I also cut contact with my mother because I resented her for not standing up for me. A couple months ago, my mother asked to talk to me. Long story short, my father has cancer. It was discovered at an early-ish stage, and his chances of survival are good, but the treatment is very expensive. They've sold everything, including the house, and are up to their neck in debt. My mom, knowing I'm well off, asked me to help pay for my father's treatment, so in that very moment, I wrote her a check for $5,000 and told her my debt with him was settled and to not expect a cent more from me. She started crying, and I left. My brother started messaging me a few hours later, telling me I'm the a-hole. Am I? Now let's read the top comments. Not the a-hole, and frankly, I'm shocked you didn't laugh in her face when she asked. I'm curious why he treated you so differently. Any chance you're not his kid? Not that it would change my answer, just curious. I don't know, but that's one of my theories. I'm the eldest kid. Not the a-hole. My thoughts too, as I was reading your story. It'd line up, including your mom not standing up for you. At any rate, your brothers may not like it and cut ties with you, but deep down they know your reasons, and those reasons are rock solid. Not the a-hole. Your father treated you terribly, and your mom stood by and turned her back on you. You wouldn't owe them the money, even if they had been perfect parents. It's appalling that they would even come to you like this. Your brothers are grieving and seem to have different parents than yours even in the same house. They're entitled to be sad, but they are old enough to recognize that you were excommunicated and should not be lashing out at you either. Yup, Opie doesn't owe them a dime, since parents are obligated to provide for their minor children, though the $5,000 was a fantastic touch to help close the book entirely. The brothers are obviously coming from a completely different place that never had to deal with any of the crap Opie did, so it's pretty damn ignorant to judge Opie to be an a-hole here. If they know themselves Opie is hated enough by the dad that they have to keep their relationship with Opie a secret, why would they think that Opie should do a damn thing for the dad? There's gotta be a lot more to this story as to why the dad or parents mistreated Opie the way they did. But bottom line is, Opie doesn't owe the dad anything, and it doesn't sound like there's any other decent reason to help either. Not the a-hole. Don't let your siblings guilt trip you. You're free of your debt to him now. I see some comments asking if there's a chance of you not being his child, And honestly, I thought the same. So if that's a possibility, then even less you have an obligation towards him. Yeah, OP, get a DNA test. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents it's their fault we're all a bunch of fat ass? I'm 15 and I'm fat as F, and I'm so disgusted by how I look. I'm 6'1", like 185 centimeters, and weigh 320 pounds or 150 kilos. Some of it is muscle. I do lift weights, but still, I'm a porker. My sister is 5'6", so like 167 centimeters, and 220 pounds or 100 kilos, so she is probably worse than me. My parents are 5'11 and 5'7 and weigh 350 pounds, 160 kilograms, and 250 pounds or 120 kilograms. I don't know how much my other family members weigh, but some of these lard asses use the mobility scooters at Walmart to go shopping. I decided to change this. I have been running daily and trying to eat healthy. Problem is, our diets consist mostly of fast food, frozen pizzas, chicken nuggets, and other fried craps. I told my parents at the grocery store to buy us more fruit and vegetables. I'm going to just eat fruits, vegetables, and fish. Healthy fish like salmon, not deep fried stuffs. Parents often refuse to buy it and tell me I'm not special or they're too expensive, etc. We're not even poor, for God's sake. We're like upper middle class. We were at McDonald's drive-thru for the 4th time in a week, and parents asked me what I wanted. I said I'm not interested, and I'll eat some apples at home, and they told me to get something because they're not getting me other food. I lost my crap and said, "This is why we're all a bunch of disgusting fat asses. You have fed us nothing but garbage our whole life and never instilled good nutritional values in us. Now I got a lot of work to do to burn this off. Yet you guys still wonder why Grandpa died from a heart attack at 60. None of us will live much longer if we don't change." They screamed as loud as they could to shut the F up, or I'd be grounded. Drive-thru people overheard this through the microphone, and he awkwardly interrupted trying to finish our order. When we got home, parents yelled at me about respect. I told them they're a bunch of hypocrites, seeing how they don't even respect their own buddies. Now I'm grounded, and they took away my phone. They forgot I have an iPad though. Also, I lost 30 pounds in the last 4 weeks. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, well done for your weight loss. That's amazing. If your parents won't support you with your weight loss, you could look at reducing your portion sizes and looking for a part-time job so you can buy your own groceries. It's unfortunate, but they may not change. Get into cooking and exploring tasty food that makes you feel good. Also, even fast food places have some healthier options, even if you have to modify. McDonald's, a grilled chicken sandwich, no mayo. Jack in the Box, chicken fajita pita, just examples. Good job on your weight loss and choice to eat better. The challenge is trying to make the best choices with whatever you have available. The salads from McDonald's are actually pretty tasty. Obviously, they still have bacon, and the dressing isn't the healthiest, but get grilled chicken salad, then be selective/careful or forgo the dressing. Not the a-hole. Good on you for looking after your own health, and I'm so sorry to hear your family are not feeding you a healthy diet. They probably knew what you were saying was true deep down, felt attacked, and wanted to ignore the problem. Bringing up your grandpa would have been a painful point for them, but it just seemed like they're not ready to hear it. My best mate had the same problem, and since her family refused to improve their diets, all she could do was choose healthy options whenever she could, and exercise a good 3 times a week. It still works, just takes a little longer. When you're an adult, you will have a total control over what you eat, and I promise that's not far away. Ask them to get in cheaper basics like potatoes, rice, chicken, bags of salad, fresh vegetables, and key spices to season everything with. Make sure you're losing weight the healthy way though. Apples for dinner is not appropriate. You need energy for the exercise you want. Cardio is a little better for shifting weight than muscle exercises in my opinion, but you do what makes you comfortable. YouTube stretching exercises to relax your muscles before and after you work out. Not the a-hole, but don't starve yourself. Get salads with protein at the fast food places. Educate yourself in nutrition to make sure you get the fat and vitamins you need to be healthy. Edit. Always check calorie content. If you get a salad, you can skip croutons or go light on dressing. You can also go for grilled chicken with light or no mayo. Basically, control what you can within the ability you have. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for being brutally honest about my experience having teen parents and embarrassing them? I'm 23 and I'm just starting college. I had to wait to go to college because I went to extremely crappy schools growing up and I got an awful education. I ended up working and going to community college just so I could save up and apply to a proper bachelor's program. Because of the current situation, I had to move back into my parents' home. My roommates work as nurses and I wasn't feeling safe. My parents had me when they were in high school. They try their best, but teenagers have no business raising a kid. We struggled most of my childhood, and they only ever became stable when I turned 17. I now have 2 younger siblings who are 5 and 2. We had a family Zoom call recently with my aunt, uncles, and grandparents. We had a normal chit-chat. Then my aunt said she was so proud of my parents for stepping up and raising a successful child. This is where I may have been an a-hole. I kinda scoffed/laughed when I heard my aunt say that. Then my aunt asked, what's that supposed to mean? And I kind of just vented my entire issues of being raised by 2 immature teenagers who didn't know what they were doing. That I went to crappy schools and live in crappy neighborhoods, and that I was borderline neglected. And now, I'm 4 years behind other people my age. We just ended a Zoom call at that point. I never vocalized my issues before, but I did that night. I told them they were not good parents to me, and while I love them, I don't really respect them. And that frankly, I'm pretty bitter and jealous seeing my parents be better parents to my siblings than they ever were to me. My parents were very upset, and they apologized. They told me they'd try their best. I just locked myself in my room for the rest of the night and refused to talk to my parents. The next day, I decided to move back to my rented room, but my dad stopped me and was in tears as he apologized again. Now, my parents are on this weird mission to make it all up to me, which apparently involves some sort of promise to pay my student loans. All this feels too little and too late for me, but I am still staying in their house because I have asthma and can't afford to get sick. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Yes, they were young. No, they aren't perfect. If it was that bad, you wouldn't be home now. You are lucky they let you come back, and frankly, you seem ungrateful. At your age, they were caring for a child. You aren't even taking care of yourself independently. Right, he is home mooching off his parents, but woe is him because they stepped up when they were young and couldn't give him everything he wanted. Right? My response would be, I'm sorry you feel that way. Now since we suck so much, I assume you'll either be moving out or paying rent. Which would you like? Free ride stops when you start crapping on your parents. You're the a-hole. You're 23. At what age do you stop blaming your parents and start taking responsibility for your own life? By the way, there are plenty of people who grew up in situations much worse than yours and are able to make something of themselves. People from crappy schools still get into decent colleges all of the time, and people who grew up without money are still able to prosper. Life is what you make it. If you've done nothing but make excuses for yourself and bash your parents, then it makes sense why you are so behind other people your age. Grow up. Agreed. And funny how Opie says going to crappy schools was the problem, but it took 4 years to get an AA or to transfer to a state school? Maybe it's Opie's work ethic that is the bigger problem. You're the a-hole. Wow. So firstly, you have the nerve to say you had terrible parents, yet here you are, at 23, mooching off of them. Okay, if they are so bad, move out and cut contact. Secondly, that's super petty and shallow to air out dirty laundry in a family Zoom meeting. If you felt so strongly about yourself, parents, why not tell them in person face-to-face why you feel so upset instead of airing out your dirty laundry? Thirdly, your education partly falls on you. Blame the system all you want, but part of your failures is you didn't apply yourself enough. No one wants to hear it or say it, but you didn't work hard enough to make up for your inadequacies. Fourth, you're an a-hole because regardless of this post, you're still going to continue mooching off your parents' kindness. You'll still live rent-free. You'll still let them pay off student loans, and you'll likely still bash them. Not cool. No words, Opie. I'm just disappointed. Our first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for flipping out after being told it was my dad's wedding day while we were driving to it? My parents are divorced and have shared custody. My parents do not get along with each other at all. They're always trying to get back at each other. And while my mom is more vocal with her pettiness, I can clearly see the BS my dad pulls, even though he tries to hide it. I got picked up for my week with my dad, and he says that we are going to his friend's house an hour away for a surprise party. I fell asleep and found us at an event hall. My dad's smiling and says, "Surprise! It's my wedding." And then he says that me and his wife's daughter are bridesmaids. He tells me to hurry inside and get ready because the wedding starts in 30 minutes. I lost my crap. His wife's daughter and everyone else in our family knew for months. But I was kept in the dark because apparently he was so sure that my mom would hear about it and create drama. I felt extremely betrayed and lashed out at my dad horribly. I was crying and said some harsh things. I was forced into the back room and told by my aunt that I was being a brat and to put on the dress. I put the dress on, which was a size too small and couldn't even zip up. At this point, I threatened to call the police if I wasn't taken back to my mom's immediately. My dad finally agreed to let me go back home. The only people available to drive were my dad and two of his friends, who were random men I didn't know. There was no way in hell I was going with them. My dad gave up and drove me back. This was 45 minutes after the ceremony time. By the time he got me home and went back to his wedding, it was almost 3 hours past the wedding time. Most of the people had left, and I was told that he had to marry his wife at the courts a week later. All this happened in January, and my relationship with my dad is strained, and my previously good relationship with his wife and her daughter is now non-existent. My dad did apologize several times, but I feel like all our relationships are messed up now. Her daughter messaged me and called me a bunch of names that my mom found out about. My mom then got her suspended from school. So, I don't even want to be in my dad's house anymore. Am I the a-hole for how I acted? I feel bad that his wife had her wedding ruined. Now for the top comments of this post. Not the a-hole. My dad's smiling and says, "Surprise, it's my wedding." And then he says that me and his wife's daughter are bridesmaids. There are two reasons I can think of that he'd do this, and I think it's obvious which of the two is the more likely. One, he somehow thought this would be a happy surprise for you, like finding out you're at Disney World or something. Two, he knew that you wouldn't want to participate in his wedding, but your absence would make him look bad. So he ambushed you, thinking that there's no way you'd be able to say no and put on the spot. I feel like all our relationships are messed up now. I hate to say it, but if your dad thought that what he did was in any way reasonable, or even worse, he knew that it was unreasonable and did it anyway, then your relationship was already messed up, and you just didn't know it yet. At any rate, your dad put you in an uncomfortable situation that you never should have been in, and he's responsible for the fallout. A surprise wedding is never a good idea. Surprising your teenage kids and expecting them to be in the wedding goes down in history as one of the worst ideas of all time. Not the a-hole, Opie. Not the a-hole. Holy hell, they surprised you with zero time to process a life-changing event that will drastically alter the future of your family as you know it, and told you to get over it and smile. This is not okay. I hope they have offered to pay for therapy. I would start solo and move to family when you feel safe enough to process emotions in front of them again, which may be a long time. Am I seriously the only one who thinks the mom is also an a-hole? Opie said that the dad hid the wedding from her because he was afraid the mother would find out and cause drama. Of course, that doesn't excuse what he did, but if the mom is so bad that the dad is worried she would ruin his wedding day, that means the mom is the problem, right? Either way, not the a-hole. But I don't think the dad is a monster. I just think the mom is bitter. Not the a-hole. The sheer level of arrogance of your father to spring this on you and expect you to be happy. I'm glad your mom has your back. You should talk to her about amending custody if you so not want to go back to your dad's. Mom doesn't sound like a treat either. She's just as much of an a-hole for creating unnecessary drama, leading the father try this unwise action. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin's fiancé that her nephew is actually her child? Some context. I live in a country where marriage is a gigantic aspect of one's life. If you have a child out of wedlock, then your life is pretty much over, especially if you're a woman. I have a cousin. I used to really like her as a child, but she grew up to be very scummy and intolerable. Long story short, she's a homewrecker, gold digger, and does these, which can get your entire family in jail because it's extremely illegal here. Rehab has not worked. She also has a child out of wedlock, 5 years old. It has been a lot of effort in our family to help her raise her child, so when she said she found a man, we were all very happy. Her man turned out to be one of the most intelligent, kindest, and respectful people I have ever met in my entire life. He is organized, structured, educated, etc. The complete opposite of my cousin. Well, the pandemic has forced all of my family to be in very close quarters with one another, and I got a big glimpse into my cousin and her fiancé's relationship, and it is not healthy at all. Not at all. Nope. She manages to put on a front most of the time, but there are other times where she's extremely manipulative and abusive to him. She calls him names, tells him he needs to make more money, judges his decisions, is insanely jealous of every woman he hangs around, including his actual sister, etc., etc. She's done these in his house, and she's also lied to him and says that her son is actually her nephew. She told him that she wants to bring her nephew with them when they get married, but it's not a deal breaker. Really? Your child isn't a freaking deal breaker? So, I've actually just so happened to see this type of situation play out in real life. One of my uncles, who used to be extremely pristine and strict, married a woman who, well, she wasn't nice. Divorce isn't really a thing in my region, so he was stuck with her, spiraled into an alcohol addiction, and was never the same afterwards. I don't know if my cousin's fiancé would have ever went to that level, but I didn't want him to freaking ruin his life marrying my cousin. I told him that I was concerned about their relationship. He just said that he's working on it. I also told my cousin to tone her crap down, but she blew up in my face for it. Months and months passed. Everything stayed the same. I could see her fiancé growing miserable, but the wedding date was nearing. One day, while we were having lunch, I just let it slip that my cousin's nephew is actually her son. I guess manipulation and abuse wasn't enough to steer him away, but revealing to him that his fiancé had a son out of wedlock was enough. And he left soon after. My cousin was, of course, extremely pissed, but I told her that she shouldn't have hid her son in the first place, and she shouldn't have treated him like crap. My entire family is fuming at me now though. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your cousin sounds awful. You probably saved the guy from a lifetime of misery. Agreed, 100% not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but please keep an eye out for her son. She seems like the type of person who'd take it out on her kid. Not the a-hole. If he found out later, it would have been a lot more drama. Alright, sounds like the poor guy would be stuck putting up with her BS forever if we take example from the uncle. Cousin sounds insufferable. Family is just upset that they have to continue supporting her. Definitely not the a-hole. Exactly. It's crazy to me how nobody told the poor guy the truth until OP made a slip. This was definitely an escape route for the family to not deal with the sister, and OP ruined the plan. The family is angry because they'll have to spend more time with a lunatic. Not the a-hole. If divorce were acceptable and he was the kind to stand up for himself, then I would have said to stay out of it. But if being with her will really permanently ruin his life, then you did the right thing. Edit. Okay, people are replying to this saying if the tables were turned, it would be different. I am a victim of emotional abuse and manipulation by a narcissistic piece of absolute ish. I am a woman. I would still not get involved if the woman had a chance to leave. Why? Because I know personally that you need to realize yourself what situation you are in, so that you don't get into that situation again. Many people tried to help me, and it only drew me closer to him. I was suicidal, miserable, and my self-esteem was in the crapper. In my relationship now, I purposefully chose someone who was not like that, and I put a lot of effort into making sure our relationship is not like that. I know couples who are worse than Opie's cousin. People have tried to get involved, and now they've been married for decades, miserable, always tearing each other down. They've gotten divorced, and ended up with different people who are just as bad. Until they learn themselves, they will keep choosing the wrong person. For the guy in Opie's story, if the line was the kid and not the D's, the verbal abuse, or the manipulation, he probably didn't learn and will find someone just like the cousin and she won't be able to help him then. The line is physical abuse, and if the person is in imminent danger, then obviously it needs to end. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to F off and stop calling my girlfriend my sister? I, 18 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 17 female, for 3 years now. My mom and her dad got married, and we live together. We were dating before our parents were, yet our parents have told us it's inappropriate for step-siblings to date. We can't show any affection in public, or our parents will ground us. We can't be in our rooms alone, or ever be home alone. It's so freaking infuriating. My parents also make it worse by saying things like, "Take this over to your sister," or "How are you and your sister feeling?" I got so sick of this. I hugged my girlfriend, and my mom broke it up and said there was too much touching. And I just lost my crap and yelled, "F you. I'm so sick of your crap. She's my girlfriend, much longer than you've married Sam. I will continue to date Jessica whether or not you approve. You can't decide what I do. F you." And I left the house, pulling Jessica out with me. She said I was unnecessarily rude to my mom. I could see my mom crying through the window. We came back several hours later, and my mom and Sam were there to give us a talk. They had a discussion and told us about how we need to stop being entitled and accept the fact we are siblings now, and we have to behave appropriately. I told them they could go F themselves and left. Jessica followed me into my room. I locked the door and ignored them as they knocked on the door and were telling me to come out. They gave up after a bit. Freaking hell, I want to move out. Now for the top comments of this post. Not the a-hole. Your parents are loons and are throwing a temper tantrum because they want to create a fantasy world. Even if you weren't dating, them getting married wouldn't magically turn Jessica into your sister. Yep, Opie got there first, so the parents should be the ones apologizing for making things so weird. Both parents are being a-holes, and this is one of the few posts where I actually approve of Opie yelling at his mom. She more than deserved it. Not the a-hole. This is all kind of weird, but you were dating first. Your parents are being odd about this. Maybe you should move out as soon as possible. If this is even true, then it's super freaky. The time to talk over family boundaries would definitely have been before your respective parents were married/cohabitating. I can't even say that it's a good idea for them to have started dating at all. What happens if you break up? They've just imposed social instincts upon you. I don't even know where to begin. Not the a-hole, I guess? Talk about inappropriate relationships. I mean, what parent decides it's a good idea to shack up with the dad of their son's girlfriend? They're the grown adults here. The brain finished developing at 25. Don't at me with that 18 legal age BS. They should have known better than to put their kids through that. This reminds me of a previous post where a pair of parents got married to try and make their kids break up. Were these people really never taught about boundaries? Not the a-hole. When they say to bring something to your sister, just say, "Who? I don't have a sister." Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to get an ironclad prenup and that his fiancée has questionable motives? So my mom died less than 4 months ago, which was a fairly unexpected event. 2 weeks after her passing, my dad, 63, tells my sister, 27, and myself, male 30, that at some point he will start dating again. I totally understood, although a little taken aback by the timing. The only thing I tell him is that he should wait a while before jumping into anything serious. He agrees and says that he wouldn't really consider dating someone for at least a year. Fast forward 3 days, and he informs me that he has reconnected with his high school sweetheart and have reconnected as friends. Still no issues on my end so far. 2 weeks after that, my sister, who lives with my dad, she helped take care of my mom, informs me that my dad and Carol, his high school girlfriend, are on the phone all the time with each other, texting all day and emailing. Also, Carol has made it clear that she wants to marry my dad, and that he is going to spend the weekend with Carol and build some bookshelves with one of her sons, who is my age. Needless to say, he's basically been spending every day he can with Carol and her family. My sister has been extremely against this whole ordeal and vocal about it. I have been against it and tried to tactfully express my concerns. Fast forward to this past Sunday, the day which we spread mom's ashes. My dad, my sister, and myself meet up for breakfast. He decided that it was an appropriate time to tell us he is getting married to Carol in March. To which I responded by saying, "Then you better get an ironclad prenup, because nobody in their right mind or with good intentions would start dating someone who's been a widower less than a month, let alone marry him within a year of his wife's death. I also won't be at the wedding. I don't want to meet her or her offspring, and that this entire relationship between you and Carol is not only disrespectful to my mom, but also make me question how much she even loved mom in the first place. Considering after your dog died, you said you wouldn't be ready for another dog for years, yet mom dies and you're ready to marry in less than a year?" He was hurt, and the rest of the morning was quiet and awkward. Afterwards, I get texts from my grandma and aunt saying that what I said was cruel and uncalled for, and really upset my dad. So, please Reddit, I need to know, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If you were calm and factual, not the a-hole. You raised several very valid points. And maybe it was stuff he needed to hear. I can't imagine the pain of losing a spouse, and he may not be thinking clearly. Stand your ground. I was calm the entire time. I've expressed several times to him that I know he is in pain, that he is on completely foreign ground, and is grasping at anything to bring him comfort. that I think he needs to take time to process his emotions before jumping into another relationship. His response was, "You can't put the toothpaste back in its tube," and continues on with Carol. Not today, Hall. Glad you said something, because if you don't, then who will? I've heard of a rebound girlfriend, but a wife? This guy doesn't need another woman. He needs therapy. Sorry to hear about the situation, Opie. Yeah, that's exactly what my sister and I have been saying. He needs help, not another woman. Not today, Hall. He is being disrespectful. I would even question if the relationship started before your mom's passing. Blah blah. He is an adult, but so are you. And his choices will have long-term consequences to your relationship with him. And the fact that he ranted tattle to his mom and sister to get sympathy tells me there's more going on and your dad is immature and needs to grow up. Yeah, that question of when did this really start has been in the back of my head for a bit now. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my future mother-in-law that I won't invite anyone my fiancé doesn't want to our wedding?" My fiancé has a step-brother from his childhood he does not like, and does not have an ongoing relationship with him. The last time they saw each other was when they were 18, now 25, and that's the way my fiancé likes it. It upsets his mom and stepdad so much, and the half-siblings they share. But it doesn't seem like they were ever close. In old family photos, you can see they keep as far apart as possible. I have seen photos of the stepbrother glaring at my fiancé, and I have heard stories of how they resisted getting photos taken together, even larger group photos. My fiancé also showed me old school notebooks, where he used to doodle and write little notes about wishing his mom had never married his stepdad. And one of them had a couple of notes from stepbrothers saying he thought my fiancé should never have been born. So it's safe to say there is a lot of bad blood there. My fiancé was the one who said he did not want to invite a stepbrother, which makes sense to me. His mom asked him about the invites just the other day, and she was not happy to hear he was not planning to invite a stepbrother. Once she got him out of the way, she asked me to invite the stepbrother myself. She said the bride normally gets more pull, gets what they want, etc., and that brothers should be at each other's weddings. And one day they'll make up and my fiancé will regret not having him there. I told her I wasn't going to invite anyone my fiancé didn't want there, or anyone he already said no to having. She told me I'm becoming part of their family, and should put the work in to help him make the right choice. When I stood my ground, she did not respond best, and my fiancé kicked her out because he wasn't having her go behind his back, and lash out at me because of it. Some more of fiancé's family are saying I should have agreed to at least talk to my fiancé about it, since future mother-in-law asked me directly, and approached me as a new member of their family. This includes my fiancé's stepdad. And now I just wonder if I messed up how I handled this. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Future mother-in-law is trying to lay the groundwork for using you to manipulate your husband. I wish my wife had seen this tactic for what it was at the beginning of our marriage. It would have saved us a lot of heartache from manipulation pulled by my stepmother. I hope he did this perfectly. My mother-in-law tried to do an end-run around husband, and get me to make him do what she wanted him to do on several issues in the first few years. I just back up husband, tell her he makes his own choices, he's an adult, and I support his decisions. I hope he did great not letting herself be used as a manipulation tool. Not an a-hole, and it would have been a very bad move to betray your fiancé to appease his mother. Good on you for standing your ground and staying loyal to the only person that matters on your day. You can invite whoever you want to your wedding, mother-in-law be damned. Nope. Tell them you are becoming his wife, not the family therapist. Not the a-hole. Agreed. Your fiancé is your family. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé is very clear that he doesn't want a stepbrother at the wedding. It's his wedding, and mother-in-law has to get over it. Not the a-hole. It's not just your wedding, but your and your fiancé's. And mother-in-law sounds like a lot to have around. Good for you for sticking to the family you're both choosing to start, as opposed to the one he was forced to put up with. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for flaunting my engagement at a wedding? This happened a while ago, but I'm just curious to see what people think of this situation. My boyfriend and I, mid-20s, attended a destination wedding in Greece. is friends with both the bride and groom. They aren't super close, but obviously close enough to warrant an invite. We decided to turn it into a 10-day vacation and spent days 1 to 5 in Italy and days 6 to 10 in Greece. The rehearsal dinner was day 8 and the wedding was day 9. We got engaged in Italy on day 2. We posted an Instagram photo as an announcement and enjoyed the rest of our vacation. At the rehearsal dinner, 6 days later, our friends congratulated us and asked some of the usual questions, including asking to see the ring. We never broached the subject ourselves. We only responded to question if asked. We were careful to keep it short and changed the subject quickly to avoid too much attention on us. So we only really talked about the proposal to 10 to 15 friends out of 125 plus guests. The next day at the wedding, we spoke to very few people about it at all, less than 5 I'd say, and changed the subject ASAP. I later found out that the couple was furious at us for flaunting our engagement during their wedding and stealing their spotlight. Apparently, we should have waited to post on Instagram until after their wedding, and I shouldn't have worn my ring to the wedding festivities. I felt horrible, because we really did avoid talking about the proposal as much as possible, without being outright rude to those who ask. I guess I could have not worn the ring or posted though. Honestly, I didn't think about that, but maybe that would have been more polite. So what do you think? Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. No a-holes here, but in your shoes, I personally would have waited. Obviously, it isn't the same thing, but I remember an episode of The Crown mentioning that Princess Anne couldn't announce her engagement until after the Queen gave birth, or something along those lines. I think the same general protocol would hold for etiquette's sake. Don't announce it while at the wedding or related events. I'd say on the wedding trip counts as related. Not an a-hole though, because your life doesn't have to revolve around someone else's, and while you drew a different line than I would, you seem to be generally respectful and circumspect. I think this is a fair answer. The line I drew was the wedding trip, but I thought of it more like Greece was the wedding trip, Italy was our own thing. I guess at the time I thought I was doing everything I could to be respectful within reason, but from the answers here, it does look like I could have/should have done more. I'm going with no a-holes here over everyone sucks here. Your friends getting married can't expect a moratorium on engagements for weeks around their wedding, and it's not like you got engaged the day or 2 before it. But at the same time, since the wedding rehearsal was the first time you were seeing your friend group since being engaged, it became a de facto engagement party with everyone congratulating you. It also sounds like you did talk about your engagement even though you didn't initiate and not just say thank you and steered conversation away from it. Ideally, back to the couple who had paid for the event you were at. And on their side, I can see being upset at your wedding hearing people talk about someone else's engagement even if it wasn't everyone. It was your friend group, which for a lot of people are more important than a ton of family members you see once a year. So I totally get why they were upset. No a-holes here. From your perspective, you downplayed it as much as you could and tried to be thoughtful. From theirs, it was a lot. In these sorts of scenarios, there's usually an opportune timing at play. Maybe they happened to look over, or be nearby, every time it came up, and therefore reasonably assumed there were more instances. Maybe it dominated a lot of their interactions with other people. Whatever the case, it's the inherent danger of sharing big news right before another's big day. You can't control timing, and others' actions are chatter, and there's a good chance that even with minimizing it, it still becomes a lot. Not the a-hole. The idea that no one can have anything exciting going on in their lives in the months leading up to a wedding so they don't take attention away from the couple getting married is really annoying. Hey brides and grooms, people literally showed up just to celebrate you. They are happy for you and think you look amazing on your special day. That's all that you get. No one is required to stop getting engaged or stop having babies so that you get all the attention. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my fiancé that I'm a father until I knew for sure? I, 30 male, am in an unforeseen situation, and feel like the people I know in real life are too close to the situation to give a less biased perspective, and have come to Reddit. First off, I am the type of person who doesn't like troubling others with potentially negative and/or life-changing news until I have all the facts, and preferably get all my ducks in a row. I feel like wasting someone's time and causing unwarranted stress can be an a-hole move. Now on to the story. 6 years ago, I found out that my then girlfriend was cheating on me. The lease in our apartment was up for renewal, and I had gotten a job offer in another state. So instead of fangirly confronting her, I ghosted her. Told and asked my family to block her, which they readily did, and then blocked any mutual friends who encouraged me to reach out to her. Sent a message to the side guy that he could have her, and that I wouldn't be on social media anymore. Although after about 2 months, I was back on with new profiles. I was upset for a while, but did move on, and I'm now engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years. Life was going great for me until, out of the blue, I was contacted by my ex, who told me that I have a 5-year-old son. Obviously, I called BS and blocked her, but she managed to get a hold of my sister and she convinced me that a DNA test would be best. I unblocked her and said that until the DNA test proved I was the father, I wanted no other contact with her. I told my fiancé that I needed to go out of town to handle an unexpected family issue and that my sister would be coming with me. Since my sister was coming, my fiancé didn't ask for details and the DNA test was done. Unfortunately, I'm tied to my ex for the next 13 years, and I told my fiancé that very same day. She was shocked and hurt that I kept this from her. However, I explained that I didn't want her to worry for nothing if the kid wasn't mine, and that I was just trying to protect her. I understand that my fiancé will need time to process and reevaluate things, and I'm giving her space. Although now that everyone is starting to find out that I have a son, some of them are saying I'm the a-hole for not telling my fiancé sooner. I honestly thought that I was doing the right thing, but am I the a-hole? Edited to add, because I keep seeing this. 1. I ghosted my cheating ex because I didn't want to hear her excuses or see her cry. I didn't want to give her any more of my time, and a part of me took some satisfaction in thinking how she was going to struggle with the rent now that I was gone. 2. Between my ex contacting my sister and me telling my fiancé, it was about 9 days. 3. The only reason my sister went with me was because she already knew and wanted to come. If my sister hadn't known, I would have gone alone. It wasn't because I trusted her more than my fiancé. 4. When I entered a relationship with my fiancé, I wasn't aware that I was a father, so I didn't lie when I was with her. I don't know why people think I withheld having a kid for years. You're the a-hole. She's your fiancé, someone you plan to grow old with and share your life with. Sharing potentially negative and/or life-changing news is what you sign up for when you are in a serious committed relationship. You're supposed to be a united front, and instead you're leaving her in the dark. I don't want to trouble my family/fiancé, it's just an excuse for hiding things. This is a major thing. Why would he hide it? It is 100% a control move disguised as a nice guy, I'm so considerate move. By deliberately withholding information from someone, the OP is reaffirming, consciously or subconsciously, that they totally control the terms of their relationship and how close they can choose to get. The other person has no say. The OP is also controlling how much they have to show up for someone else. By avoiding messy situation, the OP doesn't have to expend energy on meeting anyone else's emotional needs. The OP is the a-hole. I hope his fiancé takes a long, hard look at what his secrecy and justifications mean when it comes to mutual respect and communication. You're the a-hole. You didn't just keep her in the dark, you lied to her by omission. She's supposed to be your partner, and if you can't be open and vulnerable about what's going on in your life, why are you even getting married? All it would have taken was, my ex contacted me out of the blue with this information. I'm getting a paternity test to verify. Learn how to actually trust your partner, or break up. Don't tie someone to you if you can't be honest with them. She has every right to be hurt and upset that you basically let her know you can't trust her or be open with her. And he did lie about where he was going and why, and even made sure to put in that with his sister coming, she didn't question anything. You're the a-hole. You continued your relationship under false and self-serving pretenses. Now your fiancé has to deal with all of this at once, instead of being able to adjust to the situation with foreknowledge. She should dump you for lying and demonstrating low character. You weren't trying to protect her, you were trying to protect yourself from her judgment and decision.